This is Justina Ireland. She's a writer for the High Republic for Disney Lucasfilm. The problem is, if you don't like my politics and my beliefs and my moral compass, you aren't going to like the books. So let's just go ahead and save everyone some time. This is also Justina Ireland. White nonsense gets up early, but I get up earlier. Just kidding, white nonsense never sleeps. Shout out to all the black kids on Netflix shows just trying to live their lives while their white friends bring a mess of effery to their doorstep. If you don't like my politics or my beliefs, don't buy my books. Not to Kill a Mockingbird, though. That book is literally about absolving nice white people of their responsibility of racism. If I had a stand, it would be white privilege, and it would look like middle-aged white dude and convince people I deserve things I actually didn't. It's really hard not to be bitter about all of the white people in publishing regurgitating all things black women have been saying for almost a decade like it's new. Facebook is going to trip because it's where you go to learn that all the white people you knew back in the day didn't see you as a human until the Today Show told them Black Lives Matter and their local Target burned down. Why would someone at a dream factory, like Lucasfilm, creating Star Wars, which would be a dream to the millions of fans that have loved Star Wars over how many decades, how does this racist hate monger, this person who disdains you due to the tone of your skin, who hates you, and tells you not to buy the material, and straight up tells you that this material being put out by Disney Lucasfilm is going to be racist and hate-filled. It's going to have her ideology, and if you don't like it, if you don't want it, then just don't buy it. Because
it's not about money, it's about sending a message.
The reason that people like this are so emboldened is because when the 2016 election happened, no matter what you think of it, it was an upset to the system. It wasn't supposed to happen. If some rich, loudmouth jerk-off came out of nowhere and basically stole it from them. That's how they feel. The election was stolen from other Republicans who were trying to become president of the United States. And they couldn't deal with a person who was brass, crass, and spoke in terms that they didn't understand, not the culture of politics that they were used to. There are many reasons not to like Donald Trump, but one of the reasons people stood behind him is because it was a challenge to the system. It was a referendum to a broken and corrupt system that only in the recent weeks have many people woken up to. Just like many people woke up to the true problems going on at Disney Lucasfilm when Pablo Hidalgo felt emboldened to attack Star Wars theory. People have had to wake up. They've had to understand that this is something that has been going on, a company culture at Disney Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy that has existed for years. Many people have been attacked, but many, like those who ignore politics, do so because they just don't want to know. It's noise. It's garbage. Well, the garbage is here to stay. There was an event about 7 years ago, back in 2014. It's usually represented for what it was. It was fans of games versus journalists. But the narrative you will get out of the mainstream or access media about this situation was that it was 30-year-old racist white dudes living in their mother's basement who were upset about women in gaming. That was the narrative. When the actual grievance being had was a person trading sexual favors with game journalists for favorable reviews. The reason that in my book, The Fandom Menace Volume 1, Fandom Betrayed, the very first chapter is on Gamergate is because I believe this was a proving ground. There were certain things that happened during this time where you saw a convergence of media and entertainment personalities and developers coming together to all attack a customer, attack the fan, to come after people who did not follow their ideology. They were viciously attacked for years, and to this day, if it's brought up, as I said, you will most likely get some version of the false narrative that it was about misogyny, which it was not. Careers were built from this. Very disingenuous people, platformed, patted on the head, and allowed to go around causing division and hate based on the projection of their own bias against others who may not have had any idea what was going on at all. Much like politics. If you don't pay attention to politics, you don't really know what's going on, and it will come after you. Since 2014, the media really understood that they could lie to our faces, and if they all joined together and lied together, then they could press a certain narrative. Any narrative that they wanted, really, something in complete contradiction to the facts. It was the unifying force of a person who came into office that many didn't like because either they didn't like him personally, didn't like his politics, They didn't believe him or thought he was disingenuous, but most of all because he upset the system. Donald Trump was not a politician. He was not supposed to win that election, not in the eyes of the establishment. And this was a threat to every establishment criminal in our Congress that has been in office for much too long, has been paid by special interest groups, or in the back pocket of the top 1% that have a system in place of perpetual wealth and power. They are protected by their allies in the media, which at this time, a place like Twitter, which just deplatformed a sitting president of the United States, has showed that social media has more power than our own government. Now, why do people like Justina Ireland to this day feel emboldened to be racist and hateful and smug and uncaring about the company she represents or the product she is trying to sell to consumers, customers, whatever you want to call them? And this is because 2014 was a success. Please go check out the Fandom Menace Volume 1. I have the first chapter up for free, and I'll leave a link in the description below. It's an hour long. There's a lot of information in there, but it's something that you should understand, because liars, propagandists, attacking fans or customers succeeded after 2014. This trend has continued on, and we have seen it through the last several years. Since day one, the person that they didn't want in office got into office. He has been viciously attacked, never given a chance, because he was not a part of the system. And the system attacked back. Year after year, we saw biased reporting, the shaping of social media filters to only allow one narrative to be pushed, to be put into the algorithm, to be projected upon people. We witnessed politicians absolving people of harassing others in public, in stores, with their families, at restaurants, if they stood against their echo chamber, their narrative. The idea that this was okay was again reinforced by the mainstream media and social media filters, or fact checkers, or as I like to call them, propagandists. We've seen radicalized people in positions of power all over entertainments who have pressed their ideology and attacked others if they didn't co-sign to their reality. We've seen cancel culture run rampant all over, excused, allowed by social media platforms, patted on the head by the media, dependent upon the target. This has been an excuse of radicalized, hateful, aggressive behavior that has gone on for years, festers itself in gaming, comics, television, movies, to change what is acceptable to the public, to people who may live in fear or anger or are driven by these base emotions, playing you against each other for any myriad of reasons, whatever checkbox it may be. Enter this last year where you have literal racist hate groups destroying local businesses, attacking people, going after police, wanting the police defunded, where you have domestic terrorist groups literally acting as domestic terrorist groups, allowed on social media, patted on the head by media, excused because they're expressing the right frustration. They're acting out in an approved way, an approved racism. Yet we see American citizens gather at our nation's capital about an election that I can't even express my own personal views on this platform, because this platform itself is denying people being able to point out obvious things. And these citizens were upset, did far less damage than your average Black Lives Matter or Antifa riot, and are being labeled as criminals and traitors, whereas in other narratives that it was perfectly fine to destroy your local town. Couple that with a virus that crept up out of nowhere and has, for whatever you think of it, been used as an excuse for politicians to exercise power and keep you in your home for month after month, again destroying small businesses, people's financial viability, while your only means of connecting with others is social media, whose filters are set up to only allow a certain narrative to be pressed. Things are only going to get worse. This is why we have people like Justina Ireland, who can tell you not to buy her books because it's full of racist garbage and it's not meant for the fans. It's meant to her to express her own racism and anger. It's not meant for you or me. It's not meant for anyone whose skin tone does not match what she approves as being human. This is Disney Lucasfilm, no matter what we think. This is Disney Lucasfilm. It's not going to stop as we see social medias like Twitter and Facebook beginning to purge anyone who thinks outside of their echo chamber. We see that these people have become even more emboldened to espouse their rhetoric and division after the 2020 election, which I can't even give my opinion on this platform. It was allowed because many different types of people in our entertainments and political spheres, and journalistic spheres, have all been colluding together to press the same hateful, divisive ideology. The wealthy want to stay in power, and they don't care how many of us get hurt or how many of us fight or how many freedoms we lose for them to remain in power. That is simply what it is. It's more than racism or sexism. These things are tools used to divide us. Things are not going to change at Disney Lucasfilm. They are not. Regardless of what we think or what progression we believe has been made, I think these are just breadcrumbs. These are just allowances for us to get behind or vent our frustration or point the finger and say, this is why we were right. Thank you for giving us Luke. Something that made many fans very emotional for many reasons, good and bad, and also allowed people like Pablo just laugh at the fans themselves. Because the company culture at Disney Lucasfilm, with people like Justina Ireland and many of the other terribly hateful writers that they have, many of them working on things like The High Republic, they have just gotten a huge win. Joe Biden getting into office, no matter how you think he got there, is emboldened these hateful bigots. Things are going to get much, much worse as social medias, as tech companies, media continue to spin narratives contrary to facts, continue to paint people that they don't like in a terrible light, allow cancel culture to take place now on a massive scale. It is more important now than ever for those of us who still have voices to speak out on this. You may not have wanted to get involved in politics, and I understand. It's murky, it's terrible, it's awful, and it's filled with criminals. But now is the time, because this is the reason people wanting to stay, remain in power, remain wealthy, and can have control over you and your family, that those like Justina Ireland, people that support them, are so emboldened to hate you openly and tell you not to buy Star Wars if you don't like her racism. Come together, my brothers and sisters. It is time to unite. Do not kneel to these people. Please check out the Fandom Menace Volume 1, available below. Be good to each other. Peace.